The grand hall glittered with 1,000 candles, each flickering light reflecting off polished silver goblets and ornate gowns embroidered with gold thread, but none shone brighter than I did that night. I was Princess Seraphina of Valmir, heir to a kingdom carved from stone and steel, raised in a palace of illusions where enemies wore smiles and betrayal walked hand in hand with honor. My coronation was just months away, and tonight's celebration was meant to honor the royal alliance my father had secured with the House of Calderon, a pact sealed by my betrothal to Prince Auric, a man I had grown to love despite his cold restraint. I had always believed myself perceptive, attuned to the undercurrents of court politics, trained to see danger where others saw diplomacy. Yet, I never saw it coming. I remember the moment vividly. My laughter echoing against marble columns as I leaned over the edge of the palace balcony to feel the night air against my skin. Then, a whisper. A breath. A presence. Hands, firm and decisive, pressed against my back and shoved. I gasped, eyes wide, arms flailing, as the world tilted and the music turned to silence. I didn't scream. I couldn't. All I saw was the ceiling vanishing and stars swallowing me whole. But just before the impact, time fractured. The air turned still. Then everything went white, blinding and eternal. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on asphalt, headlights blazing in my face, car horns blaring, and a voice yelling, "Watch it, lady." I scrambled up, heart racing, and the cold metal of a lamppost felt surreal under my grip. My reflection in a car window was still mine, high cheekbones, long black hair, and those sharp eyes, but dressed in strange clothes, denim and cotton, not silks and laces. Somehow, impossibly, I had been reborn into a different world. A world of towers made of glass and metal, of glowing screens and electric birds in the sky. It was only later, in the quiet corner of a hospital lobby where they brought me after declaring me in shock and amnesiac, that I recognized the name on the ID they gave me, Seraphina Vale. Vale. Not Valmir. But close. Too close. And the faces I saw in the hallways? The nurse with sea glass eyes and a scar on his neck was unmistakably Rowan, my old swordmaster. The elegant doctor with the icy voice was Lady Corvina, once the Duchess of Northmere and my greatest political rival. I even saw Prince Auric, now going by Aidan Calder, sitting in a sleek black car outside the hospital, staring at me like he knew me, but didn't. My hands trembled. This wasn't just a new life. This was the same story being rewritten. And someone was about to try to kill me again. But this time I wouldn't fall. This time I would uncover the truth. This time I would change the ending. I spent the first week in this new world feeling like a ghost haunting my own past. Everything was strange, touchscreens instead of scrolls, caffeinated beverages that tasted like burnt honey, and music that blared from tiny boxes people held to their ears. But the strangeness didn't rattle me nearly as much as the familiar faces that followed me like shadows. I wandered the city in borrowed clothes, my mind split between two lives. I remembered the court, the betrayal, the fall. I remembered being groomed from birth to be queen, to smile sweetly while memorizing the names of potential traitors. And now, here I was, a nobody with no crown, no kingdom, and no allies. That was until I found the file hidden inside the envelope they gave me when I was discharged. Birth certificate. Address. And a scholarship to a private university. Calderon Institute of Leadership and Policy. The name Calderon hit me like a blow to the chest. It couldn't be coincidence. So I went. I stepped onto that campus knowing it was a battlefield, not a sanctuary. And on my first day, I saw him. Aidan Calder. Tall, sharp-featured, dressed in black, with the same storm-gray eyes that once watched me across the council table. He walked like a prince, even now. I felt his gaze catch on me in the lecture hall, confusion flickering behind his calm exterior. He didn't know me, not truly. But something in him recognized the storm I carried. I pretended not to see him. Instead, I focused on piecing together the web. Professor Corvina taught political strategy, of course she did. Rowan, now going by Ryan, was head of campus security. And then there was my roommate, Lila Moore. She had been Lady Leora in the past. My cousin, my confidant, and possibly the only person who knew the truth about that night on the balcony. But here, she was warm, bright, and utterly unaware. Or so she seemed. I began to journal every detail, every strange déjà vu, every time someone looked at me just a beat too long. At night, I dreamed of the balcony, of the push, of the stars turning into knives. And yet, somewhere inside me, I felt fire. Reborn, yes. But not reborn to run. I was given this second chance for a reason. And that reason became clear the night I followed Professor Corvina after class, curious why she avoided eye contact when discussing political assassinations. She led me to a dim back hallway in the faculty wing and whispered into her phone. "She's not supposed to be alive. I don't care how much she looks like her. If she remembers, it's over." My blood ran cold. I backed away, heart thudding, breath shaky. So I wasn't crazy. They knew. Someone had brought me here for a reason. Someone had plans to finish what was started. But they didn't count on me remembering. They didn't count on me adapting. And most importantly, they didn't count on me falling in love again, even more dangerously than before. Because fate had given me another chance. And this time I would use it to expose them all. I kept my head down during the day, playing the role of the quiet scholarship girl who was still getting used to city life, but by night I became something else entirely. A hunter moving through libraries, databases, student records, anything I could access with the limited tools this world offered. The more I dug, the more I saw how deep the rot had grown. Calderon Institute wasn't just a university, it was a breeding ground for future power players, just like the royal court had been. The houses, the names, the alliances, they all mirrored the world I came from. Different titles, same games. But what disturbed me the most was finding an archived article from 5 years ago. Tragic death at Founders Ball, Serafina Vale, daughter of political figurehead, falls from balcony. I stared at the picture. It wasn't me, not really. Same name, similar face, but not this version of me. She'd died here too. Pushed from a balcony. Same party, same date, just centuries later. It wasn't rebirth. It was a cycle. And now I was the newest player in a game that had been running for lifetimes. I went cold reading the guest list. Aidan Calder had been there. So had Corvina, Rowan, Leora. But another name stood out, Julian Reeve. In the old world, he had been my brother's advisor, quiet and bookish, a man who always seemed to be present but never involved. Here, he was a tech prodigy, running a startup incubator backed by the Calderon family. And he'd been dating the last Serafina. The one who died. I decided to confront him. I found him on the rooftop of the Innovation Building, sipping coffee like the world owed him nothing. His eyes narrowed the moment he saw me. "You're not supposed to be here," he said without emotion. I played dumb, smiled sweetly. "Excuse me?" He didn't answer. Just stared. And then asked, "Do you remember?" My mask slipped for half a second. That was all he needed. He walked past me, close enough for his breath to brush my skin, and whispered, "Then you'd better be smarter than the last one." Every part of me screamed that he knew everything. That maybe he was the reason. But I had no proof. Not yet. And just as I was turning to leave, I saw Aidan Calder leaning against the elevator doors, arms crossed, eyes locked on me like I'd betrayed him simply by breathing in the same space as Julian. "Interesting choice of company," he said, voice low. "Didn't peg you as the type." I swallowed hard. "I didn't realize you were the type to care." His lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Careful, Serafina. People fall off rooftops too." I froze. He walked away, leaving the threat to hang in the air like a noose. But I wasn't afraid. Because for the first time since waking up in this world, I wasn't alone. Someone had slipped a note under my door that morning. No name. Just 6 words, "If you want revenge, meet me." And underneath it, an address. I clutched the note in my pocket now as I walked down the stairs, my heart pounding not with fear but with purpose. Because someone else remembered. Someone else wanted justice. And maybe, just maybe, that someone could be the key to destroying them all. The address on the note led me to the edge of the city, where sleek high-rises gave way to graffiti-covered buildings and neon-lit corners that pulsed with secrets. I arrived at an old bookstore tucked between 2 shuttered cafes, its windows dusty, its door half-cracked as if waiting. Inside, the scent of aged paper wrapped around me like a memory. A single figure stood behind the counter, back turned, arms crossed. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come," he said, and when he turned, I felt my breath catch. It was Cashin. In the past, he'd been a knight. A rebel knight, cast out for refusing to kneel to the crown, yet loyal to me in ways no one else had dared to be. Here, he wore a leather jacket and calloused hands, and his eyes were the same fierce brown that used to scan palace corridors for hidden blades. "You remember," I whispered. "Of course I do," he replied, voice softer now. "I watched you fall. I watched them laugh afterward." Something in me cracked. All the strength I had mustered began to shake under the weight of finally being seen, finally being believed. "Why are we here?" I asked. "Why again?" Cashin handed me a folder. Inside were photos, grainy shots of Calderon's elite, including Aiden, Corvina, Julian, and Leora, all in a boardroom, all watching a presentation. This isn't coincidence. There's a pattern. Every generation, someone like you rises, bright, loved, powerful. And every time, they erase her. We're not the only ones who remember. But we might be the only ones willing to stop it. My fingers tightened on the folder. "You think this is a curse?" "No," he said. "It's a system. Designed by someone. Maintained by power. We break it, or it breaks us." I stayed with him for hours, mapping names, matching identities, finding timelines that made my head spin. But even as my mind raced, my heart kept drifting back to Aiden Calder. In the old world, he'd been my fiancé. Distant but dutiful. He never touched me with affection, but he defended me when the court turned cruel. And now he looked at me like I was a stranger trying to rewrite a script he hadn't agreed to. The next day, he cornered me after class. "No games this time." "Who are you?" he asked. "And don't lie. You look at me like we share a past I don't remember." I could have denied it. Should have. But instead I said, "And you look at me like you're afraid of what I might know." His eyes darkened. "What do you want?" "The truth," I replied. "The one you buried with that girl 5 years ago." That hit him. He stepped back, jaw tight. "You should leave this alone." "Or what?" I asked, lifting my chin. "I'll fall again?" He didn't answer. He just walked away, faster than usual, like he couldn't bear to be near me any longer. That night, I found another note under my door. Different handwriting. Finer. Sharper. "You're making noise. Be careful who hears you. Some of us are not done yet." Underneath it, a single pressed violet petal, just like the ones that had adorned my crown the night I died. My blood turned to ice. Because that flower had only grown in the royal gardens. And the only one who knew I wore it tucked behind my ear that night, was the one who kissed me before I walked to the balcony. And in this life, I still didn't know who that person was. But now, I was sure of one thing: my death wasn't just about politics. It was about love. About jealousy. And the truth was more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. I couldn't sleep after receiving that note, not because I was afraid, but because for the first time, I realized that love had played a role in my murder, and that changed everything. In the past, I had believed my death was political, a strike against the royal line, a strategic move to eliminate the heir. But now, in this modern life, I could feel the heat of something more personal beneath the surface, something driven by obsession, by twisted desire. The petal confirmed it. Someone close to me had known that detail, someone who saw me not just as a princess, but as a woman. And the list of possible suspects suddenly narrowed to one, Julian Reeve. He had always hovered too closely, too quietly. In the old world, he had watched from the shadows, loyal to my brother, never to me. But I remembered one night, too clearly now, when I caught him staring at me through the reflection of the ballroom mirror, his gaze hungry and haunted. I'd dismissed it. I was engaged to Elric. But maybe I shouldn't have. I showed Cashin the note, the petal, the implication. He stiffened, jaw clenched, and for the first time, his composure cracked. If Julian's involved, he said slowly, then he's been orchestrating this longer than we thought. He runs the Calderon Foundation's Memory Research Division. The girl who died 5 years ago, she was a test subject in one of their private brain mapping programs. You're not the first. My stomach turned. He's trying to control the cycle. Or worse, Cashin said, voice flat. He's trying to recreate it. The horror sat between us like smoke. It explained too much. The funding. The secrecy. The fact that no one remembered the girl before me, because she had been erased. Replaced. Rewritten. And now he was watching me, waiting to see if I would break the pattern or fall into it. I needed to act fast. I confronted Lila that afternoon. I brought up the ball. The fall. The flower. Her reaction was almost too calm, but her eyes flickered. You think someone's after you? She asked. I know they are, I said. And I think you know more than you're letting on. She exhaled sharply. You're not wrong. But you're asking questions that get people killed. Then help me ask better ones. For a moment, she hesitated, then nodded once. There's a private gala next week. Not school-sponsored. High security. The board members and donors, the real ones, will all be there. If you want to know who's pulling strings, that's where they'll be. I thanked her, unsure whether to trust her or keep her close just in case. That night, I dressed in a sleek black dress Cashin borrowed from a friend. He drove me to the venue on his motorcycle, and for the first time, I saw the city from above. Glass towers reflecting red lights, highways glowing like veins, the future and the past merging into one. Are you sure you want to walk into the lion's den? He asked. No, I said, but I'm sure I want to walk out of it. When I stepped into the ballroom, the air hit me like perfume and memory. It was exactly like before. The chandeliers. The music. The same spiral staircase. And standing at the center of it all, glass in hand, was Aidan Calder. He saw me the second I entered. His eyes widened. Then narrowed. He began walking toward me. Slowly. Purposefully. But before he could reach me, Julian intercepted him, whispered something in his ear, and Aidan froze. I watched both of them closely, and in that moment, I understood the truth. I was the variable they couldn't control. And both of them had tried. In different ways. But tonight, I would let them believe I was still in their game. Until I broke it from the inside. The room buzzed with false laughter and clinking glasses, but underneath it all was the unmistakable tension of old secrets wearing new faces. I moved through the gala like a ghost revisiting her own funeral, every chandelier glinting like the one that had swung above my coronation ball, every stair-step like the one I'd walked to my death. Aidan kept his distance, eyes never leaving me, and Julian disappeared into the inner circle of donors, whispering in ears, making sure power stayed exactly where he wanted it. But I wasn't here just to observe, I had come to uncover. I slipped through the staff hallway behind the ballroom where the lights buzzed low and footsteps echoed loud. Cashin had given me a pass, borrowed from a faculty member, to get access to the second floor where the Calderon Foundation's private offices were located. The moment I swiped the card and the door clicked open, I knew I was stepping deeper into the trap. The hallway was lined with portraits, founders, donors, benefactors, and at the end of it was a glass-walled office with a glowing server rack and rows of screens. I stepped inside and began searching, hands trembling slightly as I accessed the files Cashin told me to look for. Subject SV was the title of one folder. Inside were neurological maps, memory logs, even recorded conversations. One of which included my voice. Or hers. The girl who came before me. The last Serafina. She had known she was being watched. They keep calling it an experiment, she had said in one recording. But they don't care what I remember. They care what I forget. I scrolled faster, finding logs of her final days. Her visits with Julian. Her obsession with Aiden. Her increasing paranoia. Her warning that someone was planning to end the cycle permanently, by killing the one with full memory. Me. I was the anomaly. The first Serafina to remember both lives. And that made me dangerous. A sudden voice behind me made me spin. You always were too curious for your own good. It was Julian. Calm. Collected. Hands in his pockets like he hadn't just caught me breaking into his mind palace. She loved you, you know, he said, stepping closer. The one before you. She thought Aiden could change. That he would protect her. But he chose me instead. My breath caught. You pushed her. His smile didn't reach his eyes. It was necessary. She was beginning to remember you. My heart pounded. Me? The first you. The real you. The one who started all of this centuries ago. I didn't understand. Not yet. But Julian leaned close enough for me to smell the bitterness on his breath. And now you're back. Which means this isn't over. I moved fast, slammed the chair into his leg and ran. He shouted, but I was already flying down the stairs, through the crowd, back into the glittering chaos of the ballroom. I spotted Cashin at the far end, already moving toward me. Aiden intercepted me first. What did you find? He asked, grabbing my wrist. Let go, I hissed. Tell me what you know. You think I'm part of it? His voice cracked, real emotion for the first time. I tried to protect you. Then and now. Then why did you do nothing when she died? Because I didn't know the truth until it was too late. His grip loosened, but his eyes burned. And now I'm trying to fix it. Then help me destroy him. You don't understand, he said, almost pleading. Julian's not the only one who remembers. There are others. And they're watching us right now. I pulled away. Then let them watch. Because I'm done being quiet. I've died once. I don't intend to do it again. And with that, I disappeared into the crowd, not running from danger but walking straight toward the center of it. This time I wouldn't fall from the balcony. This time I'd be the one who pushed back. Cashin found me outside behind the venue, where the cold air bit through the silk of my dress and the weight of everything I'd just learned threatened to crush me. I was shaking, not from fear, but from fury. The cycle. The experiments. The manipulations. It wasn't just a curse or a punishment, it was an orchestrated system of control. And I had been the puppet in both lives. Not anymore. He knows I remember, I said as Cashin draped his coat over my shoulders. Julian was behind her death. And he knows about the first me. He said it started with me. What does that mean? Cashin's face was grim. It means you were the first variable. The one who somehow broke the memory lock in the original cycle. That's why they keep restarting it. Hoping to reset you. Hoping to erase the deviation. But I'm still here. Exactly. And that terrifies them. We didn't go back to the dorms. He took me to a safe house, an old apartment tucked above a laundromat with blacked-out windows and a filing cabinet full of documents on everyone connected to Calderon. It was there that I began to understand how wide the net really was. Politicians, tech CEOs, university deans. Some remembered. Most didn't. But the ones who did had formed something like a secret council. They called it the Continuum. A group that ensured every timeline served the same outcome, one where power remained in the same hands, where the bloodlines never shifted too far, where memory was a privilege reserved for a few. "They're gods playing dress-up," Cashin said, spreading the photos across the table. "And you're the only one who keeps ruining their game." I stared at the images. Julian shaking hands with international leaders, Corvina giving lectures at memory symposiums, Aiden standing at the edge of every photo like a ghost trying not to be seen. My chest twisted. "Aiden says he wants to help me." Cashin looked up sharply. "You trust him?" "I don't know," I admitted. But when he held my wrist tonight, I didn't feel danger. I felt regret. "He's still one of them." "So are you," I said quietly. "You just chose a different side." Silence stretched between us. He didn't argue. I knew he wouldn't. Later that night, Aiden called me. I almost didn't answer. But the moment I heard his voice, low and rough, everything in me stilled. "I've been followed," he said. "I think they're onto me too. I didn't sign up for this, Serafina. I just wanted to fix what I broke." "What did you break?" I asked. "You," he said. "I broke you." I didn't know how to respond. He sounded nothing like the cold prince from the past or the calculated heir from the present. He sounded like someone who had watched me fall and never stopped hearing the sound. "Then help me," I whispered. "Because they're going to try again. And this time I'm not dying quietly." We made a plan. One final event. One final confrontation. The Continuum would be meeting at the Calderon campus, under the guise of a university founder ceremony. Every name, every face, every shadow would be there. And so would I. But I wouldn't go as a guest. I would go as the girl who died and lived to remember it. The girl they couldn't erase. And this time I would make sure the cycle ended with me. Not falling, but fighting. The night of the founder's ceremony arrived cloaked in irony, a celebration of legacy, memory, and vision, held in the same hall where so many lives had been erased and rewritten. I dressed in black again, not because I feared another fall, but because I wanted them to see their ghost walk straight into the fire they lit. Cashin stood beside me as I approached the steps, hidden beneath the suit of a tech liaison, while Aiden waited inside, already playing the part of the dutiful heir. Every part of my body thrummed with memory, the chandeliers above mirrored the ones from my first death, the marble floors echoed with the same orchestral music, and the balcony doors stood open as if mocking me. But this time I didn't look away. I walked directly toward them. The plan was simple. Expose the Continuum during the ceremonial address, force their hand, and reveal the recordings we'd stolen from Julian's office. What wasn't simple was the fact that I didn't know which of them might be ready to kill again to keep the truth buried. I found Lila near the back, eyes shadowed and lips tight. She pressed a small drive into my hand without speaking. "I found a backup," she whispered. "Everything they've ever done. Get it on the projection system. And be careful." I nodded. As I turned away, her voice stopped me. "He loved you, you know. Julian. Not the girl before you. You." My blood went cold. "What?" "In every version, it was always you. And when he realized he couldn't have you, he tried to destroy you." That single sentence felt like ice down my spine. I had never loved him. I had never even seen him. But he had seen me, in every lifetime, and decided that if he couldn't possess me, no one would. I hurried to the control room. Cashin was already there, slipping the drive into the system, nodding as the file began to upload. On the screen, I saw it all, the experiments, the looping cycles, the records of erased girls, memory wipes, and orchestrated suicides labeled containment. And audio. Audio of Julian whispering into the ear of the previous Serafina. You'll never be hers again. You'll never be loved unless you forget. And then, her scream. Her fall. The silence after. I felt bile rise in my throat, but I clenched my fists. Put it on screen, I told Cashin. Now. The moment the ceremony began, the lights dimmed and Julian took the stage, ready to speak his usual polished script. But then the screen behind him flickered. Static. And then her face. The last Serafina. The one who came before me. Her voice echoed through the grand hall. If you're seeing this, I'm already dead. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Julian froze. They kill us. Over and over. For remembering. For breaking the pattern. But we are not accidents. We are not failures. We are proof that memory is power, and that they fear it. Her image was followed by the files, names, faces, roles. The continuum. The audience began to stir. People stood. Phones came out. Whispers turned to panic. Julian stepped forward, voice shaking. This is fabricated. It's a lie. I stood then, from the center aisle, and the crowd parted like water around me. No, I said, voice ringing out. It's the truth. And I'm the proof. Aiden appeared beside me. Not as a prince, not as an heir, but as a man who had finally chosen a side. She remembers everything, he said. And she's not the only one. Julian's face twisted. You think this changes anything? It already has, Cashin said, stepping from the side and revealing the media livestream that had been quietly rolling for the past 10 minutes. The continuum secrets were already out. There was no undoing it now. Julian lunged for the balcony doors, and for a terrifying second, I thought history would repeat itself. But Cashin got there first. He slammed Julian back, pinning him down as security swarmed. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I wasn't the one falling. I was the one watching the man who tried to destroy me finally lose. And the world was watching too. Julian Reeve was arrested on the spot, screaming about fate and time and how none of us understood what we'd unleashed. But as the flashing lights from reporters' cameras lit up the marble walls, I realized something unsettling. He wasn't afraid of prison. He was afraid of being irrelevant. Without control over the cycle, without his shadow empire, Julian was just a man obsessed with what he couldn't have, doomed to rot in a world that finally saw him for what he truly was. And yet, even as the truth spread like wildfire, news outlets covering the scandal, students walking out in protest, donors pulling funding, I couldn't bring myself to feel victorious. Because the battle was over, yes, but the war was not. The continuum had been wounded, not destroyed. Their agents scattered like rats, some exposed, others going underground. Corvina vanished from her office, leaving behind nothing but a broken nameplate and a trail of encrypted messages. And Aiden? Aiden kept showing up, wordless at first, bringing me coffee I didn't ask for, walking me home without explanation, as if trying to undo every moment he had ever stood by and let me suffer. I didn't know how to feel about him. I remembered the cold prince who had kissed my forehead once before sending me to my death. But I also saw the man in front of me now, the one who had chosen to break his silence in front of everyone, knowing it would cost him his legacy. Why did you help me? I asked him one evening as we sat on the fire escape outside my apartment. Because I couldn't lose you again, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. In every life, I lose you. This time, I wanted to fight for you instead of against you. And if this repeats? I asked. If there's another version of me, another fall? He looked at me, pain etched into every line of his face. Then I'll catch you next time. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because despite the pain, despite the betrayal, there was something about Aiden that tethered me to both lives. He had always been standing just behind the line, waiting for me to pull him across. Cashin, too, began to pull away, not in bitterness, but in quiet acceptance. He returned to the safe house less and less, always with news, with leads, with new names surfacing. "There's more of us," he said one night. "People who've remembered pieces. Dreams. Flashes. We're not alone anymore." He placed a single item on the table, a coin with the emblem of Valmir carved into it. "It's starting again. But this time, it's not a cycle. It's a revolution." The word stayed with me. I returned to campus with my head held high, no longer just a girl who had survived, now a woman who had changed the rules of the game. Professors avoided me. Students whispered my name like a myth. But I didn't care. I wasn't there for their approval. I was there to watch the walls fall. And fall they did. The Calderon Foundation disbanded. The Institute changed leadership. Cashin formed a coalition of the remembered. And me? I published everything. Every memory. Every truth. I signed it anonymously at first, just SV, but it didn't take long for people to connect the dots. They called me the girl who broke the loop. The princess who lived. The ghost who remembered. But I wasn't a ghost. I was very much alive. And for the first time in 2 lives, I wasn't waiting for the fall. I was walking towards something new. A future I would build on my terms. With or without the crown. It took months for the world to catch up to what we had done, but change, once sparked, spreads like wildfire, especially when fueled by truth. The continuum didn't fall overnight, but it fractured, piece by piece, as the people whose memories had long been locked away began to dream again. Across the globe, whispers turned to protests, and old names turned up in forgotten files. The myth of legacy, the illusion of inevitability, all of it began to unravel. And in the midst of it, I tried to build a life. Not a royal one. Not a resurrected one. A real one. I chose to stay at the university for a while longer, not because I needed it, but because I wanted to feel what it meant to live without watching every shadow. I walked the halls as Serafina Vale, a name that once felt like a costume but now felt like something I had earned. Cashin stayed in my life, but from a distance, chasing leads, unearthing memories in others the way he once did for me. Every so often, we'd meet at the bookstore, exchanging files like old spies, but now with warmth instead of weight. "You're still the girl who ruined the plan," he'd say, grinning. "And I'll keep ruining it until there's nothing left to fix," I'd reply. But it was Aiden who surprised me most. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He never tried to rewrite our story. He just showed up, quietly, consistently, until his presence no longer felt like an echo of our past but a part of my present. One evening, we stood together on the rooftop of the Innovation Building, watching the city lights blink like stars. "Do you think we'll be reborn again?" I asked him. "Maybe," he said. "But I hope not. I hope this is the lifetime where we get it right." I looked at him, the man who once stood at the edge of the balcony while I fell, now standing beside me with nothing but open air and trust between us. "What if the cycle starts again anyway?" I whispered. He turned to me, eyes steady. "Then I'll fight it. With you. Not for power. Not for legacy. Just for us." And in that moment, I believed him. Because maybe the cycle didn't need to end with destruction. Maybe breaking it wasn't about revenge, but about choice. I had spent 2 lives running from the edge. Now, I was ready to leap forward, not into death, but into everything they tried to take from me. My voice. My memory. My future. I had once been a princess destined for a crown and a coffin. Now I was a woman who had rewritten her fate. And as I stood there, hand in Aiden's, wind in my hair, heart finally whole, I knew this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning.